I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, September the 24th, brought to you in part by Vitalix. Increase feed efficiency, decrease feed costs, improve conception rates, increase average daily gain, and increase weaning weights. Get the blue tub, go to Vitalix.com. Cowboys wanted. And this time of year we need cowboys, and we're wondering if there's any left. Where could we find some cowboys? I mean real cowboys, not at the honky tonk bar. I know they're full of them. They're lined up against the bar there, but we need somebody that knows something about cattle. You can really use them, and they're worth their weight in gold this time of year, guys. I don't really care if they can turn one in 3 swings, or if they can gather up 2 feet in 6 seconds. I don't care if they can bail off the wrong side and run down a rope. I'm talking about somebody that can take care of some cattle and straighten up some cattle. These fat balling calves are cheap, dirt cheap, guys. And if you can keep them alive, there's a lot of money to be made out there. We've got August feeder cattle at nearly 171 for next August. If you could buy some of these cheap balling fat calves right now, keep them alive, it's money in the bank. Big time money in the bank. You can go out there and get one of those livestock risk protection policies on there and lock them in. It won't cost you that much. You don't have much risk on the downside, and your upside is completely open. But you got to have some cowboys to keep these calves alive. You got to get a preconditioning plan. You got to have some decent facilities. Actually, it works better if you can straighten them up on some short wheat, or maybe if you got a little grass to pick around on. But you got to be cowboys to get your hands on them, guys. But you got to have some facilities to work those cattle. You've got to get their bellies working. You get them in, they're stressed out. They've got separation anxiety. They've been stressed out. They've been, in most instances, they've been subject to a lot of different infections and shipping fever and stuff like that. But if you can get those calves in, get them settled down, get some shots in them. You may want to mass treat them. I know they say that's a dirty word, not supposed to say that, but as much as they bitch about antibiotics, there's been a lot of cattle died that needed some antibiotics. People too. But, maybe mass treat them all, which that works pretty darn good. The heck of it is, if you use that really strong stuff, you don't know what to go to after that. But get those cattle in, get them settled down, get their bellies working. Don't worry about getting weight on them right away. And keep them a little bit hungry. I mean, kind of like you should your wife. Keep them a little bit hungry where they'll keep coming to you all the time. And, the worst thing you can do is get a bunch of unweaned calves in and try to straighten them up on a self-feeder. You never know when they're eating. So if you're hand feeding those cattle and you can watch them come to feed, that's the best way to straighten them up, because if they're not coming up to feed and you've got them a little bit hungry, something's wrong. If you see one that you think might need a shot, he probably needed a shot yesterday. But it takes a cowboy to do that. And a lot of times they don't wear cowboy hats and they can't ride a horse. They got a four-wheeler or they just walk the pins. But somebody that knows something about cattle, a lot of times the best cowboys are actually cowgirls. They're more nurturing, they're a little more patient, they got a little more care for the animal, but and a little more animal sense. But I tell you what, if you've got some people, or you've got the want to, or the desire to straighten up some of these high-risk cattle, you can absolutely get rich if you got a place to kind of turn them out. But there's a lot of these fat balling calves late in the sales that aren't bringing much over a buck, guys. They're just not. And good enough quality too. A lot of times those softest calves are some of the best quality ones. Your plainer cattle a lot of times have had to rough it because they didn't have the best homes. But some of the best quality calves are them softest calves, but you get them in there and you can get them straightened up And once you get their bellies working and you get them calmed down and you get your shots in them, and then they start to kind of come around a little bit, and then you got them. And then you got a hell of a commodity there, and you've already got your price locked in down the road there. Just keep them. And keep them healthy, keep them going. You don't have to have all one raising the cattle to get a big price. You saw the big prices we were getting off the Flint Hills, weighing 9 and stuff. Very few of them cattle were raised together. They were bought and put together cattle. A lot of them were crossed up quite a bit. 3-colored cattle, maybe even some crossbreds. If you've got a yearling, you don't have to worry so much about the quality on them and whether or not they were raised together and exactly what they look like. But there's a lot of opportunity out there, guys, if you want to do it. You may have to sit in them sales late or find you a good buyer that kind of knows the difference and can do that for you. But man, there's a lot of opportunity out there. I mentioned on our last report that your fat cattle prices in the north and the south have really come together, and everything's bringing the same price again, like it does a lot of times. And one of my Feeder Flash gang members that provokes thought from me every day, or at least once a week, sent me a message, and he says, it's pretty odd that all the cattle are suddenly bringing the same price, and there's no spread between the north, where you got the higher quality cattle, and the south, where you got more commodity type cattle. It's very odd that you see that whenever your choice select spread is $30. And I could not agree more. You would think if any time, our choice select spread wasn't $30 whenever we saw a $5 or $6 spread between your north and the south. And the only way I can explain that is I know that the packers are wanting the best quality cattle, but they know they're going to get them all anyway, eventually. You're going to get all the cattle. I mean, you can get very, very patient and sit back and just kind of let them come to you when you know you're going to get all the cattle. And your packers, more than anything, they're just managing the supplies. If they get a little short down here, then they move them around, bring them back around. Doesn't really matter to them that our freight's $4 1/4 to $4.50 a mile. And, it's going to cost a little bit more. They don't really care about the expenses on that. As long as they can keep the market suppressed and manage that supply, that's what they really want to do. And they're masters at it. And I absolutely cannot wait until we can get some of these packing plants, the ones that are coming online that have got some size to them. And I haven't heard a lot about them for a little bit, but the one in North Platte, the one up there in northwest Iowa, a lot of talk about one coming on down here in the Southern Plains. Just cannot wait until we get some of those coming on. They're all kind of patterning themselves over about U.S. premium beef there, where they kind of have shares, and you have a share that's a head of cattle you can bring in. That's kind of how they're doing it, because they've seen the success in that. But oh my gosh, if we just had a little bit more competition out there, and they may only be taking cattle from people that invest in those plants, that's okay. That much less cattle out there that the packers, the big four, have control over. But sure, looking forward to that, and if we can get some of that done. We've seen other outfits talk about building big packing plants. The biggest problem about building one, yeah, it's expensive, but the biggest problem is it takes 2 years to build one. And the big four packers can put you out of business in 2 years if you're having to rely on them to sell to right now. Well, let's talk about your board on Thursday. December live cattle futures down a nickel, but for the most part your cattle futures had more green than they did red, but it wasn't really that way up close here. But December live cattle down a nickel at 123.22. We can sure live with that. December was up 7 cents at 128.62. That's no big deal. Your back months were all higher, up 30 cents to up 90 cents. September feeder cattle up a dime, 154.90. October was down 82. Of course, September doesn't have any play in it. October does. But down 82 at 156.85. But on your back months of feeder cattle, they were mostly higher, down just 12 cents to up as much as 75 cents. And like I mentioned earlier, your August feeder cattle futures are sitting at 170.75. We thought we sold the hell out of our yearlings off grass this past summer. Now we're looking at nearly 171. Lock that in, guys. If you've got some light cattle bought, lock it in, because I mean, you'll just rest so much easier if you can get that done. Let's talk about your fat cattle trade. On Thursday, we saw a little bit more trade, and Wednesday was fairly active for the way things are now, and Thursday not so much, but continued trade, kind of the same price levels there. But Iowa sold 2,400 head confirmed on Thursday, with 11,300 head for the week. Live prices from 122 to 123, which is on the low side of last week's spread, and it'll be a little bit lower than last week for the most part. Dress sales quite a bit lower, from 193 to 196. That's $3 or $4 lower, guys. How about Nebraska? 2,400 head also, and 24,600 head for the week. Live sales 122 to 124. That's on the soft side, and dress sales sure lower, from 193 to 198. Kansas didn't have any confirmed sales on Thursday, only 9,000 for the week. Texas, only 600 head confirmed on Thursday, 4,100 for the week, and they all sold at 124. Did note, especially in the Southern Plains, your packers continue to turn more and more and more negotiated trade in, or negotiated grid trade in. We don't know what those prices are. You know, we can't report them. People can't use them to try to maneuver, to haggle into a better price. They're just turning them in because they feel like that we've got a good chance of getting something done for more transparency, and getting some mandated minimum requirements on negotiated trade. And they want to say, oh yeah, that negotiated grid, we're doing a lot of that. Yeah, it's really active market out there, and we're willing to do more of it. It's just the same damn grid cattle that they've always had before. They just tweak the definition on them a little bit, and they turn them in as negotiated grid. We never had much negotiated grid price before. They can call it bid the grid, whatever they want to. There's no negotiation. You either take it or you leave it. If you can't turn a bid down and hope to continue to negotiate, it's not a negotiation. You know, and I hope the hell people are listening to me on that, because that is the way the Packers are going to get around that. If we can jump through all the hoops and get some kind of a bill done to force a minimum amount of negotiated trade, they're just going to turn in more negotiated grid, and it's not negotiated on. Box beef cutout values were lower again. Choice cuts down 223 on Thursday, 305.60, and dress sales select, 270, 499, down 51. Your slaughter is falling down behind a little bit. We had at least one plant that we knew was going to be slow down here towards the end of the week, and it's fading off. 477,000. That's just 2,000 better than last week and 6,000 less than the same week before. Our weights continue to get bigger. Actual dressed actual dressed steer weight for the week ending September the 11th come in 3 pounds bigger than the last report at 909 pounds, and that's very near last week's record highs. But what else is going on? Don't forget about St. On's Livestock, St. On's, South Dakota. Here on Friday, they've got a big sale, 4,000 calves, 500 yearlings. Then on Saturday, got 1,000 bred cows, 1,000 weigh-ups. Big sale there. Get your orders into St. On's Livestock and help Justin Tupper out there. Talk about your feeder market on Thursday, your real-time index on DV Auction. Thursday afternoon, doing this a little bit earlier than I normally do. I got to get to Oklahoma City and get set up for the Heritage Place racehorse sale this weekend, so that'll be a full weekend. But your real-time index in the afternoon on Thursday sitting at 150.240, down just 6 cents. So your feeder runs have been pretty light this week, and they've really gotten light here late in the week. So, you know, we're not getting a very good test. There's not a lot of yearlings around. We have a few special sales here and there, but your normal high volume sales were not that big this week. Just like Pratt, Kansas. Winter Livestock and Pratt only 900 head on Thursday. Your feeder steers $5 to $10 higher in a light test. Feeder heifers $3 to $7 higher in a light test. Very few calves on offer. Another sale that had a pretty good test of them and kind of a special was Clarinda, Iowa. Clarinda Livestock. My friend John Anderson there, and Frank Hepker. They've got a good sale going up there in southwest Iowa, but 3,400 head there. Look at this automated market report. Your best tested weights: 495 head of 7-weight steers, average 743 at 153.26. 475 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 851 at 153.24. On your heifer side, 400, and these would be the sisters, 476 head of 6-weight heifers, average 643 at 151.36. 441 head of 7-weight heifers, average 729 at 144.85. Some other individual quotes around the circuit there. How about Bluegrass Stockyards way out east there? And that's the Bluegrass South Barn at Stanford, Kentucky. 59 head, 818-pound steers, bring $155 smooth, standing in the ring in Stanford, Kentucky. How about Belle Fourche Livestock Market, Belle Fourche, South Dakota? They continue to see a lot more lightweight calves than they normally do. Look at these strings of ranch-raised 4-weight steer calves. I mean, you would just never see this. They're not available hardly ever. And just look at them, and they're not all that high. I mean, they're getting as high quotes as anywhere in the country right now, but they don't sound crazy high. As good as yearlings have been selling, and as good as yearlings are advertised to sell this next year. But man, it'd just be perfect to turn out on wheat. But Belle Fourche Livestock Market there, these 4-weight strings of calves, steers bringing from 187.50 to 212.50, and I'll guarantee you the difference in the price there is all about what kind of shots they had, because those cattle wouldn't be weaned. They haven't had a chance to wean those calves, but the high end on there would be the ones with at least 2 rounds and hopefully 3 of a respiratory vaccine there with Pasturilla. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Thursday, and it come out of Belle Fourche Livestock Market, your Zach Tran top quote for the day: 61 head, 904-pound yearling steers, bring $163. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.